Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana on June 9th, 2022. For today's show, I'd like to talk about two topics. First, I do watch quite a bit of foreign news, RT, BBC, France 24, and DW. Although with RT since March 2nd, it's becoming harder for many of us in the US to watch RT, but we still have ways how to do it, namely through certain TV manufacturers that make certain TV sets. I was disappointed when Samsung dropped the RT app from their service, and also when YouTube dropped RT. The primary reason is because although some people may not agree with what the press says, and even impress in their own country what they say, it's still in a liberal democracy. They should still have a right to report. And the other point is the argument used against dropping RT was that, RT is a state-sponsored thing. But now when you go on YouTube, and I watch France 24 or BBC or Deutsche Welle, if I miss it once broadcast on PBS in the US, you see a little statement that says this is a state-sponsored broadcast, and even when you watch PBS and YouTube says they finally added that. So basically, since all those are state-sponsored broadcasts, why shouldn't our TV be brought back as state-sponsored? Part of the thing I like to mention though is when I was in college in the 80s, basically just a few, let's go back to a period about 82, before the end of the Cold War. In the college library, that the librarians had a very progressive policy. They had magazines from different countries. They had Der Spiegel, um, um, let's see, Le Monde, um, Paris Match, and they also had our magazines that were produced in Russia, scientific magazines, cultural magazines, and even one book. Let me go get a prop here. Just a minute. I should come prepared, but let me get a prop. Let's see, where are you? Let me go. When I started studying AI, um, the library always had a policy also bringing new books, and this was an interesting book that was brought up in the library. It's called Prolog for Programmers. I'm going to leave it so you can see it. It's part of the APIC Studies and Data Processing. Um, and the interesting thing about this book is it was published by Felix, now Polish Felix, Filiks Kluzniak, and Stanislaw Japowitz, with a contribution by Janusz Sabian, so French and Polish. Now, I just want to turn to the section where they show they wrote this on Pascal, wrote this in Pascal code, but I wish to read a little introduction regarding the code here. Let's see, I'm almost there. Let's see. And this code was written by on a computer from the Institute of Informatics at Warsaw University. And I'll just show you a little bit of the code right here. I know it may be a little bit hard to understand, but let's see. And what the thing I'm trying to look for is, let's see, is let's see. Okay, well, the point that I'm trying to make here is that this this was the code in this book, and just to show you some sections of it, just to show you how advanced it is, um, was written on computers that were similar, as a Polish built computer that was similar to a PDP-11 series computer that we used in the United States back then, a PDP-1170. And I was just trying to look here to see if I could find the exact where the exact computer that it was written on. I'm just trying to look through this again, take a look and see. Let's see. Well, but the point is that it was written on a Polish version of a PDP, of their version of a PDP-11 computer. And the other point of this book, which is interesting, now when I saw this book was published in 1984 at the height of the Cold War. So at that time, many people didn't think, were quite surprised when that book was published. I was quite surprised because, well, here's a book that was written by people that were in Poland when there was the Warsaw Pact and NATO at arms with each other, and yet this book was able to be published in the West. And just like another book, let's see. Let me go back in my bookshelf and get it here. Hold on, I get another book. Just a minute. Let's see. Oh, just a minute. I found it. I got to organize my library better. Now, this is a book that I ordered when I saw the Netflix series, The Art of Loving. Excuse me, A Practical Guide to Marital Bliss. And this was published by a Polish physician, Michalina Wyszlawska, in ethnic Polish. And this book was published in 1878. This is the 1990 edition. However, again, this was published in limited quantities in Poland during the Cold War, about 10,000 copies. Yet, in 1978, this became an international bestseller as one of the top leading couples books or sex books for couples and even for single people. And when you read through this, you can see basically how, well, just let's see, let me just saw a section here. Here we go. It says differences in the emotional worlds of boys and girls. Okay, when you see this. Well, now, based on the current rhetoric of today of banning RT and other things, anything that's made Russian or supporters of people of professionals who are Russian or something is considered. You can't read this. So essentially, this may be considered a banned book. But I don't see anything politically in here. I don't see anyone advocating violence. I mean, what I see is basically someone trying to explain to people who are trying to understand their sexuality and identity. Well, now when I watch RT and other foreign news, like I said, it's sort of hard to watch RT after March 2nd because some of the shows I really have to search for. I mean, I found Renegade Inc. on YouTube, but they haven't produced a show in about 10 days. I'm getting a little bit concerned whether they've had their plug pulled too. And I can watch RT on one TV I have. I won't mention the brand because basically I'm still a believer in the free press, even though it goes back to Voltaire. Whatever you say, I may consider objectionable, but I'll still give you the right to say it and publish it. And that's how a liberal democracy should work. Now, just going back to some of the shows I watched, like last night I watched basically on Contact. What was it? Cost Talk. I watched Cost Talk. Peter O'Ville's show, and the topic was, has the door finally closed on Russia becoming part of Europe, even though St. Petersburg was made by Peter the Great, you know, basically to be an interface towards Europe. And they had guests on from the United States, also people from the U.S. that were in St. Petersburg, another person that was in Italy in Budapest, and the thing is, what happens though is here's the point. Basically, in all these shows that I observe from RT, there's still American speakers that speak from different universities. Last night there's a professor that spoke from Brown University who is a professor of history, and there have been other professors that have spoken from St. Mary's University in California on economics, and so we can still talk. But why, with the general media, why do we have this thing about again? We have ban books, ban people, just because of their ethnicity. It's like really, um, and that though I mean, and the thing is, even points of view, because part of the problem I have when I listen to news is, which sometimes some days I really can't listen to as much because it sounds too much as a script. I mean, if I were to listen to, let's say if I were to listen to one newscast, okay, here's the script. I listened to another newscast. Well, here's the other script told in a different culture. Listen to another same script told in another culture. So, I mean, it's like when you see a movie, basically you like a good movie, but if you have to watch the same movie 5 times in a row, what are you going to think by the time you see it for the third time or the fourth time or especially the fifth time? You're going to say, is that all you have? Is that all the content you had to save for the day? There's no other, development of the content. So that's why basically I still watch RT and still observe what's being said because um, there's some points that even in the foreign news and U.S. news that people are starting to come out to it. People are starting to realize, well, what about food insecurity? What about this grain? This grain has to get delivered but can't be delivered. And then basically, RT on RT News website, they report that one group burned many tons of grain like that, and it wasn't useful. And then on France 24, they talked about another group basically concerns about whether that grain was transported properly. And so again, it's getting towards like a he said, she said. I mean, but the thing is, by listening to many points of view like this, it gives an observation of to what really is happening. Because basically, sometimes what I found out, which is a sad fact of human psychology, many people will not admit their own mistakes. If they make a mistake, oh no, no, that everything's fine. We didn't do anything wrong. Everything's fine. Oh no, Joe did it. It's like, and then Joe comes and says, well, why is everyone looking at me funny? What did I do? No one will tell them. Then finally, someone may be brave enough, and then basically they'll get when they come back in, they'll get chastised for leaking the beans or so like that. And the point is. So that's why I prefer to hear different points of view because even though basically one side will say, well, this side did, and this side this side did, I rather know what the facts are basically. So even though someone may say, well, in their interpretation, this is what happened, this is what happened. The fact is this: grain was burned. So that's the fact. The grain was burned. Or the other fact, grain was seen leaving on a ship and basically so those are the facts. And now what happens, so what my point is basically is uh, we have to listen to different points of view because um, it's a matter of resolving the situation that we have in the Ukraine. And some people call it a proxy war, and I'm beginning to wonder about that because when you think about this, I have friends who served, during the Vietnam era and also served during the Gulf War era when I was a military contractor for medical support for the Navy and Air Force. You know, right now this war has gone on for 100 days now. And Ukrainians are getting weapons to defend themselves. And however, um, all the people that are fighting there have been fighting for 100 days without any type of break. So I'm sure what's happening to the mental state? How long can they hold out? Also, 60 to 100 casualties a day, as stated by um, what I'll call basically press that is favorable to Ukraine, um, and also um, basically in some aspects of the foreign press. Um, and on the Russian side, I mean, I'm sure they're having their casualties and they're having their fatigue too. And the whole thing about this is basically is um, how much you know I didn't think I before this happened I didn't realize how dependent the EU was regarding on natural resources, how close or how thin they put their supply margins on energy. And what happens is basically is like the EU needs a Russian gas Nord Stream 2 pipeline just as bad as we need the Keystone pipeline to be opened. And the other thing people are finding out is like basically even the United States, we have things where we need supplies from Russia, fertilizer and the Ukraine, some oil and other stuff, and sunflower oil. And just like the way the world needs other parts of grains, in the U.S. we actually have to import bees to actually pollinate crops, which is that was an interesting concept when I found out about this 10 years ago. I thought, well, I because being in Wisconsin, basically, I didn't think there was such a bee problem, but there is, like that though. But so um, we can continue this proxy war, and and maybe maybe some might try to say, well, let's make it bigger so we can finally, crush. They'll say we want to crush whatever enemy they consider the enemy. I mean, one side may say, well, we want to crush Russia, and another side may say, well, we want to crush those in Europe who abused themselves during colonialism. Well, Gandhi had a good saying. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth leaves everyone blind and toothless. So basically, you're blind and you can't eat. Do we really want to go to that? Really? I don't. I hope wiser heads prevail. That's why I'm glad to see, basically Peter Lavelle show crosstalk, and even worlds apart with the hostess there. I'm sorry. I have a I'm not um, Arkova, but she has a great talk, especially when she had Michael Bolton on. Both of them had a very good direct talk. They both maintained professionalism. And even though it was a little bit testy at times, I liked it that both of them still showed that they are professionals and were able to talk even difficult issues that may sometimes get testy when you're talking, because not everyone is going to be, oh, I'm so great you're here. Let's talk about this. And well, let's not have a lull about this or something. I mean, sometimes you do get angry because you get very passionate about an issue. You get very concerned about an issue, and you really want to get to a solution point. But this thing is, I'm beginning to wonder, are we going to be this foolish regarding with what's going on, that we're going to get to an an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth, where everyone is blind and toothless, can't eat, or can't eat because basically grain is coming, or essentially the Green New Deal has gone south because the Europeans, some people may suspect the Europeans signed a bad contract to land and say, look, we can't do it this contract. We're going to have to postpone until we can actually migrate to green technology that's actually ready. So they want, so somehow they wanted, I don't know. Um, but I'm beginning to think maybe that sometimes the screen group went a little bit too far, and that's partially how this Ukraine thing started, because for resources and other stuff. And we got to realize we got to get together and work together as a one world. As even though it's different countries, we got to realize we each are not at the point where we can each live independently anymore. There's so many people we need to share resources. And this is what I advocated when I started as emergency management chairman and associate vice president for the Society for Computer Simulation in 1992. And I still advocate it now. And in regards to Russia, I don't agree in closing the door on Russia. I mean, we're going to have our disagreements. We're going to have our testy moments, but it's like, when Michael Bowen was on the show, Worlds Apart, with the hostess. Just a minute, let me just see if I can just do a quick search on a name like that, though, so I could give her um, credit like that, though. Let's see. Just a minute. Let's see. Oksana Boyko. So just so I could give Oksana Boyko credit for her show, because I feel she's doing a great job in doing this. There are other shows that I do miss that have been, that have been sort of in hiatus since this March 2nd thing happened. One show on science, Sophie's perspective, Sophie's co-visionaries, and also Renegade going underground. Well, Renegade is on YouTube. I'm worried whether they're going to get canceled too, because they haven't made a new show in the last 10 days since I checked. My point is, though, my parents were the type of parents that encouraged my sister and I to read banned books. And why? Some say, well, if you read banned books, you're against the current society. You're being, no. The reason my parents encouraged us to read banned books is because basically you learn a lot from understanding a point of view other than what is being forced in the society, or society is being indirectly forced to hear. And that's why we were encouraged to read banned books, go to see banned movies, watch banned TV shows, everything. And the thing is, what happens what happens when you read a banned book? Well, basically, you actually find out that the people writing these books and other things, they're not monsters. They're not aliens like Invasion from the Body Snatchers, ready to take over the earth and take over human culture. They're the same as you and I. They're trying to live their day, getting groceries, trying to manage the budget with groceries, trying to manage the budget with gas. I tell friends an interesting story. When I used to commute as a medical researcher, I lived in Kenosha. I used to commute up to either downtown, when we were in downtown Milwaukee, or to the medical college in Wauwatosa, which is where Blood Research Institute was located after we did our move. Well, in those days, what happened, gas was about $1 a gallon, and I drove a 77 Grand Marquis. And so I commute up, go up to my lab. Sometimes I have to drive up to UW Waukesha because to talk with someone, bring some discs, or sometimes go over to another hospital and talk. And well, by the time I did, this up, this, and back, well, it's about 12 gallons a day. So what happens? So $12. So for my first hour of working, that paid for the gas for my car. The next half hour paid for the maintenance of my car. So now, if I was thinking about today, now with gas around here $5.20 a gallon, that mean if I had to do the same thing today, I'd end up paying $67 for gasoline to do the same thing today. Boy, that's an awful lot, and that's an awful lot when you're trying to make a budget and trying to live on what you make and stretch a dollar, or stretch a euro, or stretch a ruble. I mean, it's quite a bit. So when we think about this, we really need to realize, we got to coexist. And the whole thing is basically that there has to be some sort of, I'm going to have to say it, there has to be some sort of security agreement that basically all three sides in this matter can trust. and it's four. Russia, the U.S., um, NATO, um, basically the group that forms the countries of China, India, Pakistan, and the BRIC countries, that everyone can live with. I mean, because basically, um, you know, people may think, well, okay, in the last Cold War, we were foolish enough not to have the war that we're having now. We both sides realized and they tried to understand each other, and even at times talk with each other for a long time, talking with you, trying to understand. Well, look, do you understand what this means? Are you sure you really understand this? And they try to really emphasize, and we need to get back to that. We can't have any type of reasoning that says no victory or death. We're going to fight to the last man. I'm sorry if I heard a commander say that, or my friends heard a commander say that. They'd call the ship's doctor or the field doctor to have them do a psychiatric and medical evaluation and leave them off command. Or someone else is saying, well, you know, my parents died and grandparents died in World War II and such, and I'm avenging their death. Um, Sorry, that's wrong either, because even in 1988, Gene Roddenberry wrote an episode called Encounter at Farpoint. Yes, although your parents might have died in World War II or died during the Holocaust, that is their war. That is not your war. Again, that is their war. That is not your war. Again, that is their war. That is not your war. So we shouldn't be perpetuating that. We should let sleeping bears and sleeping dogs lie. Now, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder what people think when I talk. Because last podcast I talked without my wig on, and I had one person unsubscribed, and I hope that wasn't because they were offended that I just wanted to show that sometimes I don't wear my wig. So that's why I went back to wearing my wig. So just maybe to help more people listen. But the thing is, we got to get past these. We got to get back to work again. We got to get back to talking, emphasizing, and we also got to drop this ancient bitterness. And what's another term I'm looking for that I just mentioned it? Reliving past wars. Yes, sure. I mean, my grandfather fought in World War One, and World War One at that time, Germans were called Huns. They had the pointed helmets and everything. However, if I still held those old attitudes that some people held back then, I'd actually be hating myself because ancestry-wise, I'm part German, part Polish, and part Prussian. So I would actually be hating myself, and I don't hate myself. And also, what happens regarding with World War II? One time I was in a McDonald's, and this was a few years ago, and one person recognized me that I was Polish, and she was ethnic German that came over to the United States, and she came up to me and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry for what my countrywomen did to your people." I said, "I know it's a bad time." I said, "Let's move on and forward." She said, and she cried. She said, "Thank you." I said, "Yes." I said, "Let's just move on and forward. We can make a better world." And she was so happy I said that to her, and that though, and I believe that we can, and stuff. We got to move on and forward. And what happens if this means that basically we got to do work on some sort of security agreement for basically I'll call it the European theater, which includes Russia and other countries, then we need to do it. But we're going to have to do it in a way that's trustful, because right now the trust has eroded from the post Cold War um, thoughts and philosophies that we had, in 1990. So we need to start. We need to start again. And like the Billy Idol song, "Start again, start again." Well, we're going to have to do that. So, but we got to drop these old attitudes about crushing one group, or saying one group is evil. I mean, come on now. We're a multi-plural world. We're a multi-ethnic world. And what happens is where I live, there are quite a few people sometimes that speak Spanish, and because basically and managers that work in different businesses realize that's needed, because sometimes when they first come to the United States, that helps them adjust. And just like in the early communities in Milwaukee, there are many people that spoke Polish, because basically the same thing is easier for them for when they first came to the United States to adjust. So we got to get past this thing. Well, we're not gonna we're gonna go after these people if they speak a certain language other than our native language. No, sorry. That's what causes wars or wars like this in the first place. Just live with it. People speak different languages, and because they speak different languages, that doesn't mean they're being rude. It doesn't mean that they're being hostile. It means that they're just trying to communicate in something that's easy for them. And my grandmother did that all the time. My grandparents. So in our house, just to give you an example, in our house, in addition to English, we spoke German. We spoke German, French, and some Polish. Both grandparents on my mother's and father's side preferred that it's better that I understood German and French better. And even when I went to kindergarten in Pennsylvania, Sam's my sister, our kindergarten was taught in German, because it literally was a Pennsylvania Dutch community. So when you hear me sneeze, you'll hear me say Gesundheit, or sometimes I may say Danker, or even in Polish I may say Dziękuję, or if someone goes to bed, I'll say Dobranoc. And people understand that. Now, the second point of what I'd like to talk about is tonight they're going to have the hearings from the special committee regarding the January 6th incident. Now, in the news today, I heard that there's supposed to be various Republican responses when I listened to the early news on the CBS News app channel, which is my TV 1005. However, I just heard one blurb, and I haven't heard anything else since, from Kevin McCarthy, and I haven't heard anything else since. I just wonder if there's any more. And even after this hearing is concluded, I just wonder if there will be a Republican response. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the committee is made up of 2 Republicans and less Democrats. And so since it's majority Democrat, then there should be a Republican response, because basically basically not all Republicans are represented on the committee. So I'm waiting to see that. And the other thing, what I'm using for my rubric tonight to evaluate this committee is going back to University of Phoenix rubric, scholarship, leadership, and practice. What do I mean? Scholarship. Will they say what are the facts and just state the facts? And then will they state what are interpretations, and actually clearly label what are the facts, what are interpretations, what are conclusions and implications? Leadership. Are these facts to be based upon a wide spectrum, like the way I watch RT, France 24, Deutsche Welle, and BBC? Or are these going to be just basically all of these from the non-fake media, which means media that's not conservative and doesn't knee-jerk to liberalism? Or is it going to be all media? Practice. Even though the committee is mostly Democrats and 2 Republicans, will it still follow American principles, and that it's a liberal democracy, that one political party is not right and one political party is not wrong? Will it actually look at it on a balanced scale? The fourth part, when information is shown that is damaging to the majority party of the committee, will they report that too? Will they report their own mistakes? Because many times people don't want to report their own mistakes. So I'm looking, will they report their own mistakes? And fifth, when someone does report a mistake or something else, is it going to be a quick break to a commercial, or will they stay on to allow that person, so that people in the country can realize that this is not a perfect process, and that so people can hear the mistakes that are made, because no system is perfect, no philosophy is perfect. Well, let me know what you think. I prefer to be reached on Twitter with the show Ideas with Diana, or at Diana1A on Twitter. And I'll come back with another show in the near future after I listen to the hearings and give you my reflections. I wish to thank you for listening and watching Ideas with Diana, shown on YouTube and also on other services.